It is 6:30. Oh, Amy's here right on the dot. So I would like to call this meeting of the Ascutney School District Board to order on this Monday, December 1st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Hey, Nancy. And our first item would be changes, addition to the agenda. So do we have any changes or additions that we're making tonight? I do not have it. All right, so moving on to item 3, approval of minutes. Because we do have a couple special meetings that I know not everyone was there for all of them, I'm just going to do these individually rather than in a group. So let's start with the first one. I will take a motion to accept the minutes from the school board meeting on November 3rd, 2025.
So moved. Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, I will put this to a roll call vote. Start with the online folks. Bill, are you holding something up? Can I read that?
Oh, Hartford canceled.
Hartford canceled. Okay.
So did Windsor just now.
Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
And I am an aye, so it passes. Next up, we have, I will take a motion to accept the minutes from our special meeting on November 6th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, and I will take another roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Amy? Your volume's up, but I think you said abstain. You weren't there.
Yep. Abstain. Thank you.
Okay. Elizabeth?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Megan?
Abstain.
And I am an aye. That passes. Two directions. All right. And lastly, we have, I will take a motion to approve the minutes from our special meeting on November 18th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Amy?
Abstain.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Nancy?
Abstain.
Megan?
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right, so that is also passed. Abstentions. Okay, so on to number 4, which is public comment for non-agenda items and also announcements. Public comment is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about the concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed for discussion. Please start by identifying yourself and what town you reside in and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. So I think the only thing I would announce when I was at the musical this weekend, right?
What's this weekend?
Is that correct? All right.
Yep.
So
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it's Mamma Mia, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and two on Saturday.
2 on Saturday, all right. Pulling out on stops. Well, yeah, check out Mamma Mia Friday, Saturday, and twice on, well, Friday twice on Saturday, then once on Sunday.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, any other announcements, public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, so with that, we will move on to item 5, which is the administrative report. So I'll turn it over to you, Kristen.
Do we share?
And this one go first?
So it's in the link of the budget report, so you want me to just pull it up?
Is that the budget report?
No, sorry, the administrative report. Yeah.
Should I kick us off?
Sure. It's been a busy month. November, so busy month from the other side. We had great participation at conferences, 89%. That number seems a little low to me, but when I looked at it grade-wise, it's really maybe 1 or 2 families per grade level. So it averaged out to 89%, which is wonderful. And a couple more did reschedule after, so probably a little bit higher than that. We had wonderful lunch for the loved one right before the holiday break on Tuesday. 300 plus people. The student leadership team did an outstanding job. I've never seen kids get more excited about green aprons and clearing plates, but they did, and it was just nice to see them step up and help out and take care of the community. And we got some really great feedback from on social media and other places about how well it went. The kitchen staff was amazing, and lunch was really good. We're in preparation for the holiday concert. That is next Tuesday for the elementary, that Wednesday for middle.
Concert Wednesday.
Concert
Middle school, high school, yeah.
Yeah. We all participated in a school behavior threat assessment training just before the break. We're in our second round of intervention. We're really targeting our K-3 instruction. I think some of the conversations that we're having is that we can't target everybody and take care of everybody all the time. We're spreading our resources really, really thin. So we purposely identified our students who are in the yellow, right on the cusp, hoping to help close that gap for them. And we're in our next 6 to 8 week cycle with that, some targeted intervention. So that's, we have not let go of support in 4th and 5th grade. It just looks a little differently. They have some larger groups versus the targeted instruction for the younger grades. And then we also this week started with title funds. We were able to offer tutoring services to kids after school. So we have 11 students registered for tutoring take place after school, and staff who have signed up to do that. We have 90 hours of tutoring scheduled between now and February break. So hoping some of that targeted intervention and the tutoring will really help us start to close the gap. That is one of the priorities. And then just pictures of the turkey trot and Thanksgiving feast and how hard everybody worked together. It was a really nice community event.
In the middle school, we continue to celebrate our Students of the Month, and thank you to the PTO who donates $5 gift cards to our students. We added advisory of the month. That's a picture in the bottom of the advisory, having a celebration. The groups that are like really putting in a lot of effort and participation in their leader in these slides and advisory activities each month are noted. That was actually last month. This month it was Miss Springer's classroom was the advisory of the month. And leading up to Thanksgiving, we did a Spirit Week, which included a door decorating contest. And shout out to our staff members at the SU office who came and assessed the door. The Mr. Lord's advisory won an ice cream social for their door there, which the theme was "We're Stronger Together," and included a lot of fall woodland animals, so talking about their habits that they use, their 7 habits. Some of the monthly leadership activities that are going on, we every week have recyclers in the middle school. For the next 5 weeks, we have the 8th grade groups working on our advisory slides. We have a handful of students who are buddies in the elementary classes and hope to have a couple more for the 3rd quarter in January. Another leadership activity supported by Ms. Lawyer, our Lighthouse leader, was our students created a veterans wall of honor and had some of our local teachers and staff members on that wall, and a lot of students who have relatives who were veterans, are veterans, on the wall as well, which was really nice for everyone to write, like my uncle, my grandpa, my dad, Mr. Dower on there, dad on there, which was really nice. And we also have working on school and community culture, and students were also leading clubs once a month. So we have some chess club leaders, we have some board game leaders, and Dungeons and Dragon leaders. And so that happens at the 1st of the month, and that happened today. And so that was nice to see. Our upcoming fine arts, we have, like Tracy said, our concert next Wednesday, the 10th, for our middle school and high school choir and band. We have our middle school theater performance in January. It's an afternoon performance. I don't know all the details of it yet, but it is happening on January 16th. More news to come. Our choir students participated in the recent Brattleboro High School District Festival, and our middle school students will lead up to a middle school band festival coming soon, and they've been practicing very hard for that. We have about 60% of families in attendance for our parent-teacher conferences, and we still have a lot of families reaching out and still having a couple more meetings. That felt pretty good. It's kind of a full and busy day for the teachers with a lot of meetings, but we're happy to have it too. That's all for middle school.
Excuse me. We also had a lot going on. We had our Salem, Massachusetts trip, which was part of Theo Avon's criminology class. Our NHS food drive was highly successful. The students donated to the Rotary. They're there filling it up. I didn't think Kim and Catherine could pull it off when they sent me a day off or weekend text asking about Norway. But it is underway and finances are being secured. We had a nice donation from the Burn Foundation. We had some meetings to figure out the rest of it, and that trip is going to take place. So thank you for supporting our wild ideas, which were a little bit last minute this year. I just want to highlight our cultural action team, which is led by Katie Rainey. I think I've mentioned her in a couple of minutes, but the shift she's made in the culture of the high school through this position and the ability that it gives her to get student feedback and hear what kids want to do. And what we're hearing again and again is that there's large parts of them that still want to be little kids, and they want to take place in activities that are fun. And that remind them of stuff they did in their childhood. So we had a scavenger hunt right before Thanksgiving. We have a Spirit Week coming up in December. They also helped plan our Sunday school day this year, and we got feedback publicly from the Weathersfield principal that his kids came back bright-eyed and excited to come to Windsor, and that we knocked it out of the park this year. I think it's also telling, if you look downstairs in the senior lounge, they took it upon themselves to decorate the whole place for the holidays, and they put a tree in the center with a box that you take an ornament and you decorate it and you put it on the tree. So it's nice to see little kid activities in a high school. We also took place in the district music festival at Brattleboro Union High School, and that's a shout out to Brian and Becky. You know, when Brian interviewed for this job, we kind of gave what our hopes and dreams of what we'd like to bring the band back, and he's been hitting those goals well before I thought he would, and that's been great to see. And we had our annual fall feast hosted by the AIDS program, which if you've ever had a chance to come to, you should. just a ton of pride and gratitude in the room. And it's nice to be a part of. Upcoming, we have our holiday bazaar, which if I was forced to pick a favorite event, that would be it. Just because it brings so much joy. It's put on by our NHS, and it's essentially a store where kids can go shopping and they check out and they have all their gifts wrapped by high schoolers that they pick out for their family. But it's not junk, right? It's stuff that's donated from our community that they do a good job of picking through, and they put on a nice display, and money doesn't matter there. And it's just, the kids are so pumped for it.
When they're walking out of the building with their wrapped pile of
Yeah,
gifts,
like,
they are
yeah.
so excited.
They can't wait to get home and give it to their siblings and their parents. Winter sports started today, which I thought I was missing, but turns out I wasn't actually missing navigating 50 practices. But I did want to highlight that our girls varsity basketball team is planning to go to Westfield State on Wednesday because two of our alumni, Sydney Perry and Sophia Rocket, will be playing against each other. And it's just really neat that we take those opportunities. If nothing else, last year we took a bunch of our kids to a game at Riviera that featured two of our alumni just to get kids on a college campus and see what's out there. It's just a really nice thing that we do here. Mamma Mia, as I said, is this weekend, and we're excited about that. Our concert is next week, and that's 6 through 12, and then we have the upcoming Spirit Week, which is put on by our cultural action team, which should be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it.
No, it's a very busy time, isn't it? So at Elbridge, we had a very successful Veterans Day performance where we had community members who come, and it's a chance for our student leaders to basically run the show. We as adults do very little in the process, and it's a great opportunity for them to just experience giving back and celebrating for somebody else rather than it being about them. And we start the year off that way, which is really it's heartwarming to see so many people come up and show up. I'm just adding this now because the student leadership team led that event, and then they led the Harvest Festival. The Harvest Festival is our version of our kind of lunch with loved ones for this time of year, and we integrate our place-based learning. So as you view in the room, just the different ways that teachers have integrated and students have integrated their learning with the concept of harvest, and ties back to their garden units from the year before. And I'm going to see if I can play this tab for you on our students. I'm not sure how to do volume on this. If I hit volume on mine, I'm going to set feedback.
I like being the co-equity leader because I like helping kids. It's important to have our community together to show that we care. My favorite part of the Harvest Festival was sitting at the invisible table for the kids who didn't have a parent at the Harvest Festival.
It's important to do things like the Harvest Festival to bring people together more and to help, I don't know, make friends and stuff. We worked together on different ideas. We did a list of all the things we wanted to do, and then we did a vote on which drink had the most, yeah.
And what did you end up doing?
We ended up doing the milkshakes and chocolate and vanilla milkshakes. Yeah, because everyone liked milkshakes. The Harvest Festival was probably working with my best friend Avery and serving milkshakes and putting the orders in. It was just really fun. My strengths as a leader is to try to help people work together and stuff. Wait, hold on.
What are your strengths as a leader?
Probably making things happen, like a bracelet sale or something like that.
What's your favorite part about being a leader?
My favorite part about being a leader is helping people, and when they feel down, I like seeing them when they get up, or it makes me happy when I see someone happy.
What do you think your strengths are as a leader?
I really like to help people or get help when they feel sad or they get hurt. And it makes me feel happy when they're happy. I feel like that's a really strong thing that I do. To bring people closer together.
And what's your favorite part of the Harvest Festival this year?
Can I start that over? I like how the Harvest Fest, the people that are serving food take time out of their day. Question?
Why do you think it's important to do events like the Harvest Festival?
To remember good times.
What was your favorite part of the Harvest Festival?
Milkshakes.
What about the milkshakes?
They taste really good, and also I think I was working for them.
It's important to do the community events because you can bring people together, and yeah.
Anything about the food you want to mention?
The food is good food.
Favorite part of being a leader?
My favorite part of being a leader is you can stand up for people easier than not really being a leader, and you get to do special things early. My favorite part about the Harvest Festival is that you can serve the food and serve all the drinks and yeah.
So why do you think it's important for us to have student leaders in the school?
Probably because students want to
Hello.
Go ahead. Why do you think it's important for us to have student leaders in the school?
Probably because students might want to share an idea and maybe make it happen.
Why do you think it's important to do events like the Harvest Festival?
It brings people together, and it's a chance to show your parents what you've been working on for the school year, and also you can see kids from younger classes, and you can see what work they've been doing.
And for you as the leader of our student leadership team, what do you find is the best part of being a leader with that group?
You get to put out your ideas and make more things happen when you're the leader.
What do you find challenging about being a leader of the group?
Sometimes I get caught up in it, and it's like I have to remember to bring myself back in.
Perfect. So as the leader of the student leadership group, you hear a lot of ideas. What are a couple of ideas that have been talked about in your group that you guys would like to change about the school?
One of them might be adding more equipment and things to the field side because there's not that many things on it. And the second one is more whole school events, not events, but a whole school dodgeball game or capture the flag or whatever.
Members of our leadership team, student leadership team. One of the things I really appreciate about the group as a whole is they have a lot of confidence and willingness to advocate for themselves, which I can't imagine having been a third, fourth, or fifth grader and being able to do that with other adults. And I really appreciate that we are advocating for kids to be able to do that kind of work.
Jennifer, is this where you wanted me to say something, or?
Oh, Alice, yes, I didn't know she was online. Go for it. So Alice is the head of our lighthouse, student lighthouse team.
That's the wrong slideshow, Jill.
Wrong slideshow. Stop sharing that one.
While they're getting on it, yeah, our student leadership team this year is doing a phenomenal job to kind of give some clarity for the milkshake. We were trying to discuss what would be something we could do during the Harvest Festival that would be something to like get donations to start raising some funds for activities that these kids like to do. And they went through the whole process of what were drinks they like to have. And we had things like Shirley Temples. We even had some kids who were like, that fancy stuff that you have at weddings that, we can have that are, not adults. So, obviously like the fake champagne stuff and just like a whole list of like different things. And then really started to talk about like, is that doable? What kind of work does that potentially mean you have to do? And these kids went with milkshakes, and majority of them gave up their recess time, made them so that they were ready to go. We had one person who was like the milkshake overseer, and they helped divvy out jobs and where to put it. And it was phenomenal. And it was so much fun to get their feedback. We did it the Monday before Thanksgiving break, and just like the things that they already had started to problem solve it was great. They're sometimes very hard to get back, as our president Lev said, but they are really just such a great crew, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
Thanks, Annalise. Appreciate that. The Leader in Me approach really does help children find their value and what they can bring to the table. And regardless of who you are in our schools, they find their voice, they find their value, and I think that's a really important part of this process. So I'm really grateful that we have this approach moving forward with our communities. So the music position, we were able to hire somebody who is now 0.4, so that's super fantastic. I am looking forward to getting back 20% of my week, planning time. But just kind of going down to the upcoming events, our holiday music and arts concert that is coming up on December 11th. Just wanted to mitigate the fact that we've had 3 people sort of work with these kids on a concert, and the guy doesn't actually start until this week, which is a week before the concert. So it'll be super entertaining to see how people come together and the flexibility that the students and the teachers and the community members share with us come December 11th, 1 o'clock or 5 o'clock at our town hall. Super excited to have our town hall in collaboration with us. It's been a while since it's been easy to kind of connect with the town hall in this way. And it just makes it special for the students as a much better performance facility than the standard gym. So super excited about that. Wanted to send a shout out to our Skip, our PTO version for the ice rink. They've purchased it. They're buying a shed to store it in, as well as all the skates and helmets that go with it. And they've just been really moving forward and trying to bring back this culture of an ice rink, which when I came here 13 years ago was a pretty well established thing where the parent organization did a great job of it up, taking care of it, making it happen. And then the kids learned to skate, like all of our kids learned how to ice skate. And it's really cool because I just heard that 2 of our former students started a club at Fitchburg State where they are students. They started a club for ice skating, or for not ice skating, but ice hockey. And they're actually moved to the point where Fitchburg is now announced that they will start an ice hockey team through that process. So that's advocacy, right, in action and making a real difference in communities. So that's exciting. And then the other thing that's coming up for us, a big thing, is our solstice celebration on the 19th, where we're putting out just a whole bunch of areas of celebration and traditions that connect a lot of the different cultures of celebration this time of year. So if you're interested, stop by in the morning on the 19th for early release day and share the joy.
It's okay. I was trying to, let me just go. I think I was next, Jen, but then I can share.
Yes, you are.
All right. Love that. Sorry. Yes. All right, just briefly. I have the Mount Ascutney School Board District Quality Standard scores. So these are from the specific to the Mount Ascutney School Board. I was asked to bring these to you tonight. These are on the governance standards. So 113.1, you scored, everyone's consensus was proficient in all three of these areas. So following an inclusive process to invite and incorporate community input into vision goals, annually setting goals, measuring them, and monitoring student academic progress and wellness. On 113.2, there were a couple areas where board members thought you were approaching, and 2 areas where people rated proficient. So those were board annually assesses its performance, including adherence to agreed protocols, processes, and policies. That is proficient. Annually reviewing whether and or how its actions and contributions have impacted the school system's progress in meeting goals. That's approaching. Annually evaluating the effectiveness of community engagement and public communication efforts is approaching. And the final one was the board undertakes its own continuous learning and development and provides members with opportunities for ongoing training and support to maintain and increase their skills and understanding. That was proficient. I'm sorry, somebody's trying to get into the meeting, so let me just. All right, the final one is 113.3, proficient in all areas, which is adopting and revising policies. That's really done at the SU level, but we do it. Ensures its annual budget aligns with its stated priorities and provides an equitable distribution of resources to help meet the needs of every student. The board ensures its members are aware of conditions set forth in negotiated agreements and contracts. Bill does a nice job communicating that with the board and the other negotiators. Ensures its members understand and comply with Vermont statutes and regulations relevant to board work and public education. Stays apprised of proposed legislation and policy making that may affect its school system and students, and maintains an ongoing relationship with locally elected officials. So proficient in all those areas, so pretty good. I was asked to reach out to the staff to see if there are any topics that they would like the board to be kind of in the know that they would like to discuss, and not necessarily tonight, but in the future. I had a question from a staff member about our the cell phone legislation. We have to have a policy by the end of this year. We're waiting on the AOE model policy to come out. I've heard it should be out in January, so we'll look at that and bring that to the board's attention. So that might answer that staff member's question. And then I got another email about funding to make sure the building is truly accessible to all. So we do have some curb cuts that need repair for sure. I know that Jim and his crew in the past have tried to patch them, and I know he has a plan for the spring to do so again, but that was something that was as well. Redistricting task force, I'm sure everybody's following. So the task force last meeting was November 20th. They went forward with the recommendation of cooperative education service areas, voluntary mergers as a core concept with mandatory regional cooperation. They talked about the five regional cooperative education service areas. Those are like BOCES, which we've talked about here before, and incentivizing districts to merge voluntarily over a longer timeline. So that report was due today. Sure, it was submitted. The legislature, they received the report. They get to accept it, reject it, make their own maps. We'll see what happens. Certainly, they have mentioned without the plan of an approved map, the funding formula, is in limbo. So those are the updates for the redistricting task force. And Elizabeth put the final report in the chat. Thank you, Elizabeth. The next thing that we have for you tonight, it's under items for discussion. So Davis, I'll let me know if you want me to share it now.
Is there more of the administrative report? That's it?
report.
Okay,
Yep.
well, if that is it to the administrative report. Elizabeth, you have a question? Elizabeth?
Yeah, hi, thank you. What was it? Can you go back? I was wondering, Christine, since our supervisory union signed on to the BOCES going all the way down to the state line, can you give us an idea of what progress you all have made on as being now a part of it?
We are a member of the BOCES, the South Vermont, I'm going to forget the name of it, this official name. We are, have our articles of agreement. They have gone to the agency for approval. And once they're approved by the Agency of Education, will be an official BOCES and the first official BOCES in the state. So that's where we're at. I know that the director, Jill Graham, was waiting on different boards in the Southeast region to sign on, and that process was completed right before Thanksgiving break. So she's ready to submit the articles of agreement and all the members to the agency.
Thank you.
Yep, you got it. And she'll come to any meeting if we want to have more questions with her. She's pretty skilled at what she's doing. So let me sure I have the right. Sorry, Kim, getting ready.
We're fine.
All right.
There we go.
So the end of the administrative report. So we're on to items for discussion, followed by motions if needed. And 6A is flexible pathways report. Kim Gogan, so I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. You want to move forward? I'm assuming everyone's familiar with flexible pathways since I've been here pretty much every year, which is great. I appreciate you guys having me back and giving you an update. Last year was pretty cool because they did like the 10 years of flexible pathways conference, which was really eye-opening. And so that this is some of the stuff from there, kind of like really got to see what was going on around the state and what wasn't going on, kind of like lots of initiatives, whether it's PLPs or proficiencies. You know, there are some that are doing it more than others, or more concretely, I guess, and involved. So flexible pathways is a big concept. It you know, it has to do with Hartford and our tech centers and career and tech education to enrollment. It also has to do with like alternative education for students, and as well as extended learning opportunities and work-based learning. So to give you an update on all of that is a lot because there's a lot going on when it comes to flexible pathways. Can you keep going, Christine? But we're doing it. This is similar to last year. Again, at all the conferences that we're doing, I feel like sorry, I spent all day at a PLP cohort meeting in Waterbury, and my brain is absolutely fried. So I apologize. But so we're doing it. I think I interacted with Brian Parkman at the state level a lot, who seems to give out my name and reference our school as somebody that really, as a district that really, you know, has embraced Act 77 and sort of all of the different pathways of flexible pathways, from career exploration and work-based learning, all the way, you know, of course, to enrollment, but really allowing kids to have that choice, even independent studies and extended learning, and honoring the learning outside the classroom. I just want you to know that when I'm out and about, like, I feel like we are really doing that really well, you know. But that's not just because of me, it's because I have the cooperation of teachers and admin and, you know, the backing from you guys and all the support to be able to do the type of stuff that I think Act 77 was intended to do, and that we've embraced it and we've seen the value of it. And so, and it has kind of evolved over time because, you know, we've tried some things and then like, okay, where are kids really finding value? They're finding value in being able to do work-based learning and internships and summer programs like Governor's Institute. And that's really helping them personalize their education through enrollment, and whether it's our in-house classes or ones that they take online or through River Valley, that's really allowing them to personalize their education. One thing I wanted to highlight this year, if you can keep going, some stuff that we're doing this year more of is sort of career exploration. There was a shift this year from like the traditional capstone for those of you that have had a child go have a capstone or been to a capstone presentation, to it being all a career pathway project, which is really great. So that's like their junior, senior year. That's also when some kids are following that career and technical pathway. And so I strategically really tried to increase the amount of career exploration opportunities and really encourage our 9th and 10th graders to take advantage of those, whether it's getting kids out to visits, company tours, job shadows, because you're not just going to all of a sudden jump into an internship. You're not just going to decide to go to Hartford. Maybe you had an idea of what you wanted to do, but not all kids. They kind of need to be exposed to like all of these things that they don't know are out there. And what I really like is, you know, we're at the point where they're coming full circle. You know, they're informing projects, they're informing choices, they're informing Hartford decisions and other career and technical centers. And we're able to sort of have kids sort of buy into the value of that and go on these things on a regular basis and get something out of it. They're not going just to get out of school. I can tell you that. I mean, maybe you're a few here and there, but they're really going to see what's out there and see what they can do. And I think that is the connection that we've always been looking for between academics and post-secondary whatever, is making it authentic. And if they can better understand what they're going to be doing and making for post-secondary choices, and even their junior and senior year choices, whether it's an internship or work-based learning, then they're going to find value in the other academic classes. It provides meaning for them. And we've seen that if you have gotten to know any of the students that go to the, you know, our career and tech centers, they get in those programs and they may have been struggling their freshman and sophomore year with their academics, and all of a sudden those in general, they don't seem to be struggling with them anymore, because all of a sudden they get it, why they need that degree, right? And so that career, that scaffolded sort of career exploration, introduction and exposure is something that I think that we need to build on and build on more. I know Colleen, you and I have talked about it down into the middle school too, to prepare them for what we're really trying to drive home in 9th and 10th grade. You know, once they get to be, for a lot of kids, they're still exploring in 11th and 12th, but a lot of them, it's helped them figure it out.
Can I add something?
Oh, please.
I just want to say, one of the things that's really great about our flexible pathways is when you see the pride and the confidence and the calm of the students who do those internships and get to come back and say, oh, Ms. Godin's helped me get my certificate as an LNA, and this is what I want to go into doing. And having the support of Ascutney, Dartmouth, local nursing homes, and having students come back with that confidence and pride is quite impressive.
And I mean, we live in a small community. I mean, luckily we have the Upper Valley and we have some other, you know, we have Claremont and the surrounding area. I wish we had more. I mean, we're not Burlington. That's, I think, one of our biggest challenges, though, is we don't have more things for kids to do, like internships, but we work with what we have and we keep trying to reach out and expand. So I wanted to just share a little bit. I'll go quickly because I know you guys have a lot. If you can keep going, Christine. This year, these are the trips that we've been on so far. We've been to several career fairs, the New Hampshire Automobile Association, Women Can Do, which is always really popular. There was an allied health career fair, manufacturing day with American Precision Museum in Wayland. And then Dartmouth has really expanded sort of not just their sort of M&A and nursing exposure. Like they're now like really pushing like OT and PT and perioperative stuff and lab jobs and behavioral mental health. And so that it's not just like doctors and nurses, like the exploration that they're doing, that it's healthcare, but it's an area that we really haven't been going into this year. I'm super excited about it. And I just wanted to give 2 examples of students that I worked with as freshmen that are seniors now. And this is what I hope for. We have one young lady who was a freshman, came with me on a trip over to Sullivan County Health. We were just starting the relationship. Christine, if you remember a couple of years ago when Derek Burley came over, and then we went over, we took kids over, which we've done every year. And as she's a junior, senior, will be hopefully a senior soon and graduating this year is her plan. But like back into it, we've been able to, she was like, remember that place that we went to? And, you know, I really liked them and what they offered. And they offer an LNA program that you don't have to pay for. I mean, that's an expensive program for kids. It's about $1,800. So to be able to get a job as an aide, work in the healthcare field, get your LNA, also because of the amount of learning that and training they have to do and the learning with the LNA, we're able to help the student get credits towards graduation. She's going to end up with about 3.5 credits from her job, but it's a work-based learning. It's not just a job. She's learning and being trained, and it's hands-on, and it's ongoing training along with an intense LMA class. So that's one. And then another senior boy came with me over to Claremont to Preferred Building Systems, and as a sophomore applied to Hartford. He didn't get in at first to the building trades, and so was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And we had said, well, maybe we can do like build an internship over at PBS. But then he was waitlisted and got in, and now he's in the building trades as a senior, which is great. But he came to me and he's like, remember when we went on that tour and I met that guy and he said when I turned 18, I could think about getting a job here, you know, and I could do it before graduation as I was 18. Do you still have his name? Because I turned 18 yesterday. What? Yeah, of course I do. You know, that's cool. That's like he's been thinking about that, and that's not going to happen with every kid I take on a trip. But if he didn't know about PBS, he didn't know, you know, I think it helps solidify. Yeah, I really do want to go into the building trades, and now I have these skills, and now I can get a job at a really cool place that had great benefits that Ms. Gogan said, you know, would be a good career starter. So those are the types of things that I'm hoping that these trips that we're taking kids on and taking them away from their academics on a regular basis actually help kids figure out what they want to do and help them, you know, find their pathway through school and also after school. So if you want to just breeze through the pictures, there's I've started doing a newsletter that goes out and a parent update, and I have been trying to highlight this for parents so they can see what their students are doing when they're going on all these trips. This was Women Can Do. You can see the kids are doing so many great things, welding and playing in machines and playing firefighters and going up in the trucks. These are the experiences up at Dartmouth. This was the nursing day, and they're hands-on experiences. They're getting in and doing the things, poking the needles into the arm and all of that sort of stuff. You can keep going. This was the New Hampshire Automobile. They got to listen to a panel of mechanics about pay structure and different options in the pay field, but also they got to sit in really cool cars and you know, just gets them thinking about what do they want to do when they grow up. Again, Dartmouth, this was the perioperative day, learning how to suit up. They're actually playing with some of their training equipment in that top left picture on how to do orthoscopic surgery, I believe. Sorry, I'm not the healthcare professional, but it was like, these are the sim tools that they use for their residents, and they're allowing our students to play around with them. And if you keep going, there's Wayland. We've got a full tour of the facility. And, you know, talked about like how they like families and kids of families, and like work ethic, and how, you know, if they had relatives there, they wanted them there because they know them. You know, it was just kind of cool because a lot of the kids did. These are big companies in our area, you know, same with like Hypertherm, which we'll go to in the spring, and even now Beta Technologies, we'll keep doing these. So, yep. And then again, this was the PT and OT day. So just wanted to share some experiences. And some kids figure out it's not what they thought it was. And it's not for them. I'm looking at this one student here that's like, I don't know what I thought physical therapy was, but that wasn't it, and I don't think I want to do it. Great. Next, come on the next trip down. So, yep, that's my update. Any questions?
Great.
Elizabeth.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Kim. That was really great. I have a bunch of questions. I hope it's all right. Okay. First of all, I want to ask about the 10-year celebration. I think you've been in that role for 10 years, have you not?
I have. Yep.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I was wondering whether did you say that that Windsor is held up as kind of exemplar for what flexible pathways can do?
Yes.
Do you have can you give an idea of, like, I know that in the Northeast Kingdom, they use flexible pathways for online classes and stuff like that, more than they do for career readiness or career exploration. Do you have an idea of what they use flexible pathways for in other parts of the state?
It kind of varies. So in the past, I think I've shown like the big wheel that has all the different components of, you know, what's considered a flexible pathway.
Yeah.
And my feeling is that we've embraced all of the cogs of the wheel. And I think that's what makes us sort of separate. I feel like a lot of the schools, I can't think of any specific names, really have honed in on one of them and maybe doing like work-based learning really well. And they have a work-based learning coordinator, but they're really not, you know, doing extended learning opportunities, or that's not, you know, that's like a class that can sign up for that. They're able to do these work-based learning things through this class, or even an alternative high school, but they don't really talk about all of the different cogs. I think that we've just embraced that ability to be creative with credit for all outside opportunities that meet proficiency. Whereas I find that, and I think other schools have as well, like Hazen's one that has work-based learning, but they also have a flexible pathways coordinator. And so they're another one that I'd say, you know, the state refers to as a model Act 77 flexible pathways school.
How many districts, do you know how many districts have flexible pathways coordinators?
Not that many. This came up in conversation last year, and I think it was less than 15.
Well, that's unfortunate. I've got a question. Like, if somebody wanted to enroll at the cartoon school or cartoon institute, or have an internship somewhere, how do you handle transportation?
I don't handle transportation.
It's up to the student to figure it out?
Well, I mean, I think that I would help navigate transportation. In the past, more help the student figure that piece out. I mean, that's not something I alone can personally provide. We tried that once with a student of me, 1 year driving these kids to these things, and that's all I ended up doing, and not some
Yeah, of course.
yeah. We're, again, you know, we don't have as many opportunities as some of the larger metropolitan areas. We also don't have that public transport, but I've worked with families to use the micro move. We've had families that have used that to get to some of these experiences, carpooling, but sometimes transportation is a limiting factor. Because of where we are.
Does the does Flexible Pathways extend down into the middle school, or is it only open for high school students?
It absolutely can. We've talked about it. I think part of that is like, it's so connected to the PLP and proficiency work, which is sort of all been a work in and is still work in progress. You've got to figure out what you want that. I think sort of the PLP components of the student sort of profile piece of where career exploration would fall at the middle school makes the most sense. I think some of the other like flexible pathways options like dual enrollment, obviously not. Even extended learning opportunities really have to be, and work-based learning, kids have to be ready for them. And I think that's why just inherently we see kids doing more of them as juniors and seniors. I mean, work-based learning, they have to be able to have a job, right? Same with internships. There's also age requirements and even pre-apprenticeships in Vermont and our neighbor New Hampshire. So the things that we can do that are age appropriate with middle school is really sort of beefing up that career exploration piece, so that they are sort of growing into those other things.
I was thinking more like the special projects that they might undertake, or taking an online class, or something like that they could do as part of their regular school day. I just wondered whether that was something that could be arranged in middle school, or if it was only open to high schoolers.
I would say it's open to middle school. We've talked about passion projects. I think Colleen and I've had a conversation. It's what is it going to look like, and what is the outcome we're going for, and how does it scaffold and build up into what we're going for in high school.
And
so
I just have one more question, I promise.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
Can students take classes anywhere in the world through Flexible Pathways and get credit for them? Or do they have to be through another school, or?
Yes, except for, I'm not going to say blanket yes. Like when a student has an interest, like an online class, sure, especially if there's a teacher and a grade, that's easy. But when there's an opportunity that could fit sort of what we have outlined and meets the criteria of Flexible Pathways, we kind of look to make sure that it's what we're looking for in terms of meeting either proficiency and or portrait of a graduate. And so I feel like part of my role is this vetting process. So I'm not going to go yet like, yeah, anything, because that's not true. Because I've had people come to me with some things that are like, well, I don't think that really fits here. There's not learning happening, or there's not learning that we can measure through either the portrait of a graduate or proficiency. So maybe, I guess, is the right answer for that. Does that help?
The reason I'm asking is that I've had a couple of parents ask me in the last, I don't know, I don't have a sense of time about when they ask me, but I've had a couple of parents ask me about AP classes, and I've said, no, we don't have AP classes per se, but a student could take a kind of advanced class online and get credit for it through flexible pathways. And I want to make sure that I'm not misinforming.
You're not misinforming. In fact, the platform that we've used, I want to say at least for the last 6 years for the option of online learning, primarily has been at Options, which is an Edmentum product, and they offer AP classes. And we have had multiple students who want that AP opportunity to take the AP classes through Edmentum. It costs us a lot of money to do that, but it's a pretty hefty price tag for us to absorb, but we've been able to manage it. I think if we were to promote that, we might want to talk about how much that's going to cost us. But it's available to us through the platform that we're using. We have a lot of kids that come with interest, or there's not an elective here that we have, and we have a lot of kids that do medical terminology and even just a generic career exploration and content specific classes that we don't offer here on that platform. But they have a whole catalog of AP offerings.
I guess what I was wondering is not specifically how to get access to AP classes, but more like if a student wanted to go and take a class at, I don't know, Dartmouth, or they wanted to take a class at the Art Institute of Chicago, theoretically, could they do that and get credit at Windsor through flexible pathways?
Yes, theoretically. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's also part of the reason why I have wrote multiple burn grants to have that additional fund to help access some of those opportunities. And we have had kids that have gone out. A few years ago, we had a student take a summer class at Stanford Law, to go a summer law class. So yes, and we have had students do it, and we have a grant funded scholarship to help students with some of the funding. It didn't pay for all of that experience for the student, but it did help contribute to it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your patience with all of my questions, and congratulations on your 10 years, and thank you so much for all that you do. I know how hard you work at this job, and how your dedication to like being flexible yourself to make sure that that it all works for students. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Amy, you have your hand up?
I do. So Kim, again, like Elizabeth said, congratulations and thank you for all the work you do, because I know that Act 77 was passed a long time ago. And it took a long time for people to understand and to grasp all of its possibilities. There were a couple of schools that were early adopters. I don't know if they're still doing their programs. I think it was like the Renaissance program or something at Twinfield, I think, that students could create their own semester experience, and they would take subjects like social studies and create their own experience, like either with work or travel, and show everything that they were doing, and present or create presentations, which then they would share with different organizations or the board or administration and get a full semester credit in different subject areas. And I was so excited when I first learned about that, what feels like 200 years ago. But and then Winooski was also an early adopter with actual business opportunities. There were kids who were creating their own businesses through their high school experience. And I thought, oh my gosh, Windsor could do this. So I'm so glad that we are up there as far as an exemplar school. It's taken a really long time. And I truly believe that if a child wants to do something and has the support to create that plan, that there isn't anywhere in the world that they can't go. And as for Elizabeth's question, and just a question of my own on Dartmouth, students from Windsor have always had an opportunity to take Dartmouth classes at a certain point in their high school career. Is that still true?
Yes, Dartmouth still has their community program. Yep.
Okay.
We don't find a lot of students taking advantage of it because the way the Dartmouth community program is structured, they have to wait until after the Dartmouth ad drop, and it ends up being like 2 weeks into our semester and waiting to see if they're able to take this class. So in the meantime, we've built a schedule with like a big block of time free with no classes, so they're able to travel. We have an idea of what they want to do, but it takes a really long time for them to find out if they can do it. And for the right student, for a senior that had like a half-day schedule anyways, it's ended up working out, but it's not something that we can plan for in advance, like, and count on the spring before, or that even that summer. You really can't count on it until they say, yes, there's an opening in this class and you can come. But they do still offer the school community program, and once in a while it's like the right fit for one of our seniors.
Yeah, that's great. I know that my son, it was a really amazing opportunity for him, and he was able to use the math classes that he took his senior year. They transferred to be college classes. He got the credit for that as college credit when he went into college, and ended up tutoring other students. He was a freshman and was tutoring other freshmen on the classes that he took as a senior. So, I mean, just the opportunity, again, there does have to be planning and school support and family support, but it's still just an amazing opportunity when a student is able to do it. So again, thank you for all that you do, and just giving all the opportunities that kids have to make a plan for their life and do really good work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. And I don't know that I have much more to add on top of all of that great input and praise, but congratulations on 10 years. I really appreciate you sharing everything that's going on in that program. Amy, one more quick thing. We move on.
Yes, one more quick thing. I see that Miss Psyche is on this meeting, and I want to thank you for all that you have done for the math program at school.
All right. Thanks, Amy. Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Great to see everything our students are doing.
Anytime.
Always look forward to seeing it. All right, so we are on to our next item, which is staff input on topics for discussion and upcoming events. I think this was covered during the administrative report.
Yep.
In those two things, so we can move on from that, and I'll, when we get to setting the next agenda, we'll talk about where those are going to go. All right, item C, FY27 budget. So the way I would like to do this, because I know there's going to be a lot of discussion about this, is let's start with Larry's going to present the budget.
We have some information to share first.
Information, okay.
Yep.
So we have information to share first.
Yep.
Larry will present the budget. If anybody's online or here from the budget advisory committee, I'd like to, just hear from you as part of it. And then open it up for comment, if folks have comment, and then move on to board discussion. All right.
Yep. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna start because there were some questions about Act 73 that I was asked to follow up on. So I'm gonna start there and then turn it over to the administrators. So there was a question about class size minimums still going into effect if the legislature fails to choose a map. And the information that we were able to find was yes, they do. They're still a part of the law with or without the new statewide map and go into effect on July 1, 2026 for each Vermont public school, including each career technical center. We've linked the section of the law where that is stated as well for people. Sorry, there's some little transitions on here. Are class size minimums a 3-year average? No, class size minimums are not a 3-year average. Schools must meet the class size minimums over 3 consecutive school years to be in compliance. We did meet with, Larry and I met with the deputy secretary specifically to ask this question, and she informed us that the Agency of Education will have a data collection method starting in the fall to measure whether schools are in compliance or not with this law. So that was the answer to that question. In fact, there was something in the superintendent update this past week for people that are interested in being on that committee to help develop that data collection process. So they will be measuring whether schools are in compliance starting in the fall. I'm sorry, I'm too fast. Are class size minimums based on the average for the school district or the school came up at the last meeting? And the answer to that question is they are going to affect for each Vermont public school, including career and tech centers. They're not an average across the district. The next question was about content area. Are content area classes exempt? They are not exempt from the law. The law states the following and only the following exempt from Act 73 class size minimums. That's pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, career and tech education, flexible pathways, terminal courses, advanced placement courses, courses that require specialized equipment, and driver's education classes shall be excluded from the class size minimum requirements in the subdivision. Small group services for the purpose of providing special education, supplemental or targeted academic intervention or English learner instruction shall also be excluded from the requirement. And there was confusion because on the AOE website, it did list content area classes as exempt. When we spoke to people at the agency, they realized that that was a mistake and it has since been removed from the AOE website. It caused a lot of confusion. I think this is the last one. Is there ever an instance where content area classes can be below the minimum? And yes, an individual class may fall below the minimum as long as it is counted by the same content area section to average the class size minimum. So you could have a math class at the high school level with 12, as long as you had another one that would offset that to make the average 18. That makes sense. And I'm going to turn it over to Kate now.
What are the impacts on our budget? The reductions would include 1 elementary teaching position at ABS, 3 high school teaching positions, and 1 unfilled middle school math science position. What has driven our budgets this year are high school priorities. I mean, You just heard that presentation from Kim. Our high school priorities have always been opportunities for students, and we take a lot of pride in that. What would that impact be? I think Windsor right now, our biggest problem is our lack of advertising, because we're the land of opportunity here. We don't have cuts. We have students who are going to be in that play next week with the technical week with the 4 shows and still playing a winter sport. As you know, schools in Vermont are pretty much classified by where they fall in their sports division with their size. And we fall in D3, but we're actually one of the smaller D3s, correct, Larry? Yeah. And that makes a difference when we're talking about like comparing to like a Fellows Falls, who's also a D3, but they have about 90 more students than us. And that makes a difference in staffing. But what Windsor is not lacking is all that we're able to do. Our size actually works in our favor, so we're able to turn on a dime. We offer a lot here. I work with the area schools, and I go visit their schools to see what they have that maybe we need or what we can have to offer them. And we have our IDL program, which is an in-house program that runs 2 periods a day for kids who maybe were in danger of not graduating, but they aren't someone who's interested in the tech center that would be able to remain next year. We have our travel opportunities internationally, domestically, and even locally through our March intensives and our flexible pathways are second to none. They're just so plentiful. Our science fair is the best in the state, and I will tell that to anyone who asks, and anyone who's ever been to it. We just excel. We excel at finding opportunities for kids that aren't there. You know, they're not someone who wants to go to the tech center, or they're too young to go there, and they can't get an internship. We sat this year in the cafeteria, me, Jen Townsend, and Jim Taft, and we figured out how to get small engine repair to comply with our insurance and get it right here, and it was up in 3 days. So there's benefits of small schools and a small community, and a load of opportunity, and that's coming from a person that's to put 4 very different kids through this high school. One wants the CDL, one wants something to do with Park and Recs, one wants to be a chiropractor, and one wants to be both a veterinarian and a tattoo artist. And I think when they're able to provide what all those kids need, and the answer is yes. And this is coming from a person whose largest concern when I settled here, as someone who went to private school my whole life and grew up 10 minutes outside New York City, will my kids be able to have opportunities here? And will they be able to compete? You know, whatever, I'm from a large Irish family. Will they be able to compete with my cousin's kids? And the answer is yes. We offer that solid foundation here through many different ways. And I think where we lack is our advertising. And I know I'd like to think it's because everyone with our high school has their sleeves rolled up and is working hard every day. And we're missing out on the flashy stuff. I've heard kind of loud and clear, called over to other schools. You know, our size does limit us to the fact that we can offer one language in person. That is a fact. That is true about Fellows Falls. They offer one in person. I think Springfield offers 2. I called another undisclosed high school who said, don't quote me on this, but that is where we're going to have to make cuts because we can't sustain offering the amount of languages that we do right now. We just have a lot to offer, and I've heard kind of loud and clear through this process that AP classes are something that people want to see. And so we're going to look at the model that Lebanon does, or I think Mascoma, where their RVCC classes and their AP classes are one and the same. See if we could bring that here. We're going to try and offer an AP chemistry course right here. I will work as hard as I can to offer what it is that people want, and I believe my staff will too. This budget was really hard to do because we know that had to be financially. The first thing is I had to comply with the law. That is Christine's job. That's my job to create something that complies with the law, and to also be financially responsible to the people of Windsor and West Windsor. And that's really hard right now because there's so many things that are out of our control in terms of rising costs. And what will be the impacts of this? I'm not going to say, hey, there's going to be no impacts. We're going to continue with that hedge. That's not true. It won't. We'll still be able to offer honors classes. We'll still be able to offer the IDL. We'll still have our robust, flexible pathways. If I had to be honest and see that my largest worry is our science department, because they are so great and they are going to take a big loss in this. If you could see, I think Larry will show you how we came up with these numbers of what our staffing should be for each department. And the science is really down to the wire, and that they don't have a lot of flexibility in offering. Like, they would have to be stipend to teach our VCC classes. They're really impacted. Will we lose ground with how far we've come with our math intervention? I don't know. We're really lucky. A K-12, a pre-K-12 model has a lot of benefits, and one of them through this process is that we are going to be able to do a more thoughtful sharing of teachers and services at middle school and high school to actually keep those things. And that's kind of all the thoughts that went into planning this. It was hard because this is confidential information. You're impacting people's lives. So you have this responsibility to community, and you have to do this in a little bit of isolation because you can't let that information out. But then when you have to share, there are going to be other eyes that pick up on something that maybe I didn't see. Yes, and I'm open to that feedback. But do I feel confident that what is going to be presented complies with the law, is financially responsible to our community, and will continue to offer all the opportunities that I think you saw, right? Like, I swear I didn't plan to have Kim at this meeting, but man, I was thankful. Windsor, we're like the little engine that could. We can compete with any school in the state if given the opportunity, and we are embracing that changing culture every day. That feedback from Weatherfield about our sending school day this year, like, I'd like to do a better job at advertising, getting the numbers out there. Sending school students are highly successful here. They're captains on our teams. They're winners of our science fair. So it's not like, we have geographically, we're surrounded by choice towns, and we are one of the only schools that are that. That's a hard position to be in. But I'm super proud of Windsor and welcome any feedback.
School. Oops, I'm sorry, Kate. There you go. So I think you.
Yep.
The middle school.
Yeah, so I would just like to say, like, the priorities for the middle school budget, first of all, is, like Kate said, the benefit of being a K-12 school is that for middle schoolers, having them watch what high schoolers are doing and seeing that everybody is working so hard to give students the opportunities, and they know what's coming next, is a real motivator for our middle schoolers. And so that's one of my favorite parts about it, because the kids know that Ms. Ryan is supporting what's happening in the high school for kids to follow the path they want. In the middle school, my priorities are, first, number one, academic support and intervention for our students, following compliance with the law and asking us to have minimum classroom sizes of 16 in the middle school. We're easily at 16 and up to 22 in our 6 different sections for the majority of the time. If we don't really go below 15 or 16 ever. So what's most important to me is that we have all the positions to fill, and that all the students who need support in their ELA and math are getting it. Then our social emotional support, having more of that on my team this year, maintaining the needs that students have who who come up with different struggles, with in the moment struggles or over the years struggles, keeping what they need in place as they come up through elementary school and helping them have that all the way through high school if that is what they need, maintaining those social emotional supports and our SEIs. We have 2.5 SEIs that are shared between our high school and middle school, 2.5 positions. The other priorities, which are much less than those first two, are our student activities as we work on our Leader in Me initiatives. Our staff is more vocal about getting our students even more involved, having more opportunities, getting those Hartford career field trips, doing more of that, collaborating with our Wethersfield and Heartland principals, and looking at different ideas that they get to see, making sure all of our students have similar opportunities, having enrichment and building the school culture and those fun activities and those spirit weeks and those leadership things for our students and putting some money into the budget for that. And then having as a SU-wide goal of school and community engagement opportunities where our students do leadership presentations, we invite people in to share a meal. Those are important to us, but again, those last two are so little in our budget priorities compared to those first two. One of the things in the middle school is that we do have one position that never got filled this year, and looking through our class sizes and our numbers, it does not appear that we have to fill that for all of our middle school classes to be covered. That one position that never got fully filled. That's all I have for our middle school.
So Jennifer and I collaborated for the elementary portion of the budget. I think what's tricky about budgeting is always finding the balance between kind of being responsible and then thinking about all the things that we wish for our kids that will build that, as Kate was saying, that solid foundation. I really think the elementary is that solid foundation. When we put that in place for kids, they just continue to grow through the years. So our focus are those family and community engagement opportunities. I think getting parents to partner with us in learning is one of the biggest gifts we can give the students, right? When their families see what we're doing and they can support us and learning can continue at home, it does it so that budget supports that. Our intervention, which I talk about a lot, I just believe it's critical for our kids. We have a substantial number of students that need intervention at a really young age. And we've got to be able to meet those needs for that foundation to stay strong. This budget supports maintaining our current level of intervention for our younger students. This year we have been fortunate that our I think it's MLL now, or is it multi-language learners? The name seems to change a lot. The multi-language learners is English as second language, English language learners, all the other acronyms that are used for. This year, the numbers in that program dropped significantly, and we were able to use the time that was left in that position, which currently is not locally funded, and provide more intervention to some of our younger students. And in this year's budget, we're looking to maintain that, to continue and have that person in the budget to support the continuation of that. We're able to access a lot more. We have more than 52% of our students that are looking for intervention services, and that's critical for the elementary.
Yeah, and just continue that process. We receive children where they are, and our job is to help close the gap when they come at very different levels. And so whether you're talking traditional academic intervention or you're talking more of the social emotional intervention, I think one of the things we do really well across the supervisory team is understand that our goal is to meet the children where they are, rather than just start excluding them or looking at them. And both the academic and the social emotional interventions are really designed to do that work. One of the things that Albert Ridge School is with the way curriculum is laid out right now, particularly multi-age, is a big challenge. And so we do have support continued in there to help support multi-age classrooms. Currently this year we have 2 multi-age classrooms. Next year with the Act 73 reduction, we would have 3, but we still are maintaining support in order to provide that ongoing need in order to meet the curriculum demands. Regarding social emotional intervention across both schools, the proactive work that we do with social emotional needs is worth its weight in gold, right? We think about the reactive components of discipline and how harmful some of that can be. The more we can support people on the front end when they're in need, the more likely we are to help them develop the kind of brains that we want in order for them to be successful and engaged with things. In addition, we continue to have support staff that are supported through the budget, as well as some specific and stuff. We're also looking to continue to support, as we have been, student activities. We have like winter sports and things like that that provide students who live in this area the opportunity to learn some basic skills that are lifelong skills for them. For someone who did not grow up anywhere near ice or snow, I can't ski, I can't ice skate, I can't learn. Like, it's really, really hard for me to get on the ice and even walking my boots, let's be fair. And I have put skis on, but when you develop those skills as a child, you learn something that helps you get outside and stay a part of your environment and still stay engaged and doing more healthy activities as you age when you live in this kind of community. So those things are really important for us to help our students, because it's not just about them right here in town, it's about who they're going to be in the long run. So everything we're trying to do is not just looking at right here now, but we're thinking about if we invest early here, what are the long range outcomes going to be for these children as they become young adults, as they become parents themselves, grandparents, contribute members to our communities. And continuing to provide enrichment activities and opportunities. We talk about fun and we think about fun as a fun thing. Fun is actually like the most efficient way to learn. So the more we can provide opportunities that are connected to what we want them to learn, how we want them to grow, the more we can provide quicker learning opportunities for their brains to make meaningful, long-lasting connections. So we believe that while it costs some money, again, you pay up front for dividends, long-range memory, and it shows up. And when kids go into something like flexible pathway and say, "I'm super curious about this," and they're like, "Oh no, thank you," then they're not wasting their first 2 years of college. Or they're like, "Oh wow, this is super fun." And when you find something super fun with your life to do, you engage and contribute more. So those are key areas that we're continuing to support. So not adding to, but just trying to continue that support. And obviously we also have to make concept informs. The law says specifically what we have to do, so we're doing our best to find the most effective way. All right, I'm passing it off to Larry. Larry, stop sharing, we can share.
Okay. So I'm sharing now the budget book that's been out. With very minor changes for the last almost more than a month. I'd start with, I'm going to go over some of the things that are different about this year's budget book, and then go over the Mouse County local budget, and then have an opportunity for anybody who's on the BAC to speak about their thoughts. So the first thing is I included in the evolution of Vermont Education Law, Act 11, which took health insurance negotiations and took it away from the local level and I put it at the state level. And that was back in 2018, and the first year that happened was in 2020. So if you look at health insurance trends over that same time period, the orange, or the top line, is a family plan, the gold CDHP, and a single plan is the green, the bottom line. And our family gold CDHP is our most popular plan. It's over 80% of the SU and member districts use that. This cost is shared 80% by the SU or district and 20% by the employee. So you can see prior to Act 11, a family plan cost $21,000, and now it's $43,920. A single plan was $7,726. And now it's $15,000, and this includes the latest numbers from BHI, $15,856. So we included that to show the trends in health insurance. Another thing I wanted to go over was something that came out of the BAC was they wanted to see, it's kind of confusing the way we talk about enrollment particularly at Mount Ascutney School District, because you're not a K-8, you're a K-12, and the budget, as far as the Vermont Uniform Chart of Accounts, requires me to report out K-6 and 7-12, and we tend to think in K-5, 6-8, and 9-12 because that's the way we're broken out across the SU. But then Albert Bridge exists as a K-6 separately. So in order to, as these questions came back from the BAC, I thought that the best thing to do it in the budget book was simply show it both ways. So the top one shows it by the Vermont Uniform Chart of Accounts, and I broke out Windsor School by K-6 and 7-12, and you can see the enrollment there. In Albert Bridge, you can see the enrollment at the red at the bottom as a K-6 because they do not exist 7-12. And then the enrollments by the grade bands, and it's really hard to see because you see a lot of colors merging. The top one is your Mount Ascutney School District pre-K-12, everybody together. It was 648 in 2014-15, and 24-25, it's 648. So it's changed a little bit based on the schools, but it's basically the same. And for example, this includes pre-K because that's the way we're broken out, and that's the way taxes are levied. 68 for Albert Bridge, 217 Windsor pre-K 5, 117 Windsor 6-8, high school 246, and there is your 648 total. That is different than last year. Now into the general fund. So including all the Act 73 reductions that's been laid out, the budget is up with that change 6.3%. Okay, so as we go down, and you can see, I'm not going to go, this is available online, but as you go piece by piece, you can see expenditures by location. There's that 6.3% we discussed. And then as you go down here, I think this is something that was added last year. I also added it at the other school districts. If you notice the blue, that's your local budget. So that's K-12. That is everything broken out that is not assessments. Okay? So the green is special education. The orange is not special education at the SU. That's transportation. That's the business office. That's IT. That's everything else that the business office does. And the superintendent, curriculum, DEI, everything is the orange. The purple, that little sliver, is your early childhood, which is about 2% of your dollar. And then a little under 2% of your dollar is food service, that little yellow line. Now, I just want to compare it real quick. One of the things that came up was how it's a little easier as far as moving staff around in a K-12 building than it is at a K-8 building, and the costs associated with that, because just picking Weathersfield, because that was the first one I clicked on. But look at their dollar. Remember how Mount Ascutney had a much bigger blue? Because you control the whole match, K-12. And since Weathersfield's K-8, that's all they can really control. So if they want to make reductions in their budget, that's basically all they can do. Whereas here, that purple or pink or whatever is tuition. That's about a quarter of their budget, and then the SU is another quarter, roughly. So they control very little of their dollar. Going back over to the Mount Ascutney general fund budget, I think it's important to note when we break out by level, this is sort of what we've been discussing. You can see pre-K is up minor because at the SU it's basically a flat budget. The ECP program. Elementary is up. Secondary, which is where most of the reductions occurred, is down. Location-wide, which is basically your assessments and other location-wide things, buildings and grounds, for example, is up. And so that makes the entire budget up 6.32%. We had a BAC, which we have not historically had at Mount Ascutney. The first year was last year. It was a much bigger BAC this year. We had many more people on it. My role with that committee is a little different than it is at Weathersfield. And with this committee, I'm basically the deliverer of information. And so as people email me throughout the weeks in between meetings, I find the information and I get it out to them. And if it's something that Christine and I feel should go in the budget book, like those enrollment trends, we add it into the budget book. That is the 30,000 foot view of the budget. Is anybody here from the VAC that would like to speak or not speak to the budget? By all means.
Budget advisory committee too.
Yes, I'm sorry. I use acronyms like educators use acronyms in the military.
Yeah.
I'm here. I thought everyone was coming, so I
Me
hope
too.
there's more people online. So I was going to say that, the actual VAC committee process was pretty frustrating because we didn't really know what we were doing. I think it stands for Budget Advisory Committee, but we didn't really advise anything, I felt like at the time. And we mostly asked for a lot of information and made Larry do a lot of work. So thank you, Larry. But sitting here and listening to the principal's presentations, I feel like we actually really listened to, and I just want to say thank you. I feel like all of our questions were addressed in these presentations. Kate especially got really specific with things that I personally asked. I really appreciate it. One of my questions during this process was we were kind of just shown a budget that was already complete, and it was here's the budget. We're okay. And it didn't really tell us any information. So one of the questions I had asked was well, what do we need to add to the budget? What do we need to take away? How does this reflect what we want, what the principals want? And I asked, is there anything we're not able to offer due to money that other schools are offering, for to be equitable? So I think a lot of that was answered, and I think Kate answered a lot of that specifically, and some of the other principals answered that. But I think if it's going to happen next year, it would be nice if it happened, first of all, earlier in the year, not just 2 meetings at the end where we don't really have time to that information, earlier when the budgets are actually being put together. And maybe have more of an understanding of what our roles are as committee members. Because it was mostly just us being really ignorant and asking a lot of questions. And there's totally blanked out, but oh yeah, and I think I did notice there was a lot more Westminster representation there. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it was just there wasn't as much of a push on the Windsor side to get people in. As a West Windsor resident, I felt overrepresented, which is okay, I guess, but I think it should be more of a fair representation. I don't think that should necessarily be less people. I think it, I'm not sure why it happened that way, but could be a better.
I appreciate you talking about how it did look like, and I took some notes about how we improved that process. I think one thing we got mentioned is this, oddly to me, this is a new thing for this district, not having a budget advisory committee, I think, before 2 years ago. So I think looking at some of our neighboring towns and seeing how they've done it, which I'm sure you saw through.
Liz brings up some good points, and I mentioned this at the last meeting. Weathersfield has a BAC. Heartland didn't used to, and now they kind of do, but they couldn't get people this time around, which is interesting. Weathersfield's been going for a while, and the way it works with them is it is earlier, and then the principal, there's one principal, not four, pretty much runs the show, and then I'm there to because he says, hey, what would it look like if I did the staffing this way? And then he would say, well, what if I cut 10,000 out of athletics? What would it look like then? And the BAC asks the questions. And then I go to the meetings that I'm invited to. And then I show those numbers. And then usually the deliverable from the BAC is they go to the board meeting. They all sit on the dais with the board members. And they say, usually, we recommend this budget as written, or we recommend this budget with option B of cuts.
Sure.
And that's basically that's what they do. Now at Ascutney and Windsor historically, prior to the merger too, it was mostly administrative driven. They're the ones who know their staff. They know their staffing patterns. This year was particularly tough because of the Act 73 class size minimums. We're in a BAC meeting. We didn't want to go into as much detail before people who would be impacted would be discussed. So while we were having these separate private meetings with faculty and staff in this room with Christine, we were not speaking about staffing patterns like that to that extent with the BAC. And if staffing is 75% of a budget, that's a big part of the budget. Yeah. So I think if we're going to continue to have a BAC next year, I think it should be earlier, and I think they should have a very specific charge to do, or I would not have one and just let the board and take input from administration and the public as you do every month you meet. So
no, I appreciate that.
So we can talk about that at a retreat or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to get off topic.
Cat's out of the bag.
I don't want to veer off on that. I'll just say that I really see the value of having that avenue for community input. I mean, these are some of our key stakeholders in this process, and I think that having that kind of insight. One thing I want to say to Liz is that asking a ton of questions is like, I know it feels awkward, but that's exactly what I want to hear you did. So I'm glad that happened, even if you feel like you're running Larry through the ringer. But yeah, he's got a lot of good info.
I know when people pay attention to the budget process later and later, and I've been marinating in it for 3 months.
Yeah.
But they don't pay attention till the tax letter comes out, which just came out, and then some people don't even pay attention until they get the report in their mailbox, and then other people don't pay attention until they go to vote. So I think it's hard to, want to give them too much information too early, but it's also, there's a process that I have to go through to make sure we get everything we get done so we can have a vote on the budget.
Yeah, I mean, again, not to go to this rabbit hole, and to kind of sum up this thought process. Yes, it's something we should talk about going forward and how that's conceptualized. And I generally think anything that brings more community members into the hows and whys of budget numbers, who then talk to other community members, then talk to other ones, and it's coming from an informed, experiential place. I think there's a lot of value in that. So thank you, Liz. Thank you to I know they're not here, but thank you to your compatriots on that board, fellow committee members. It is really valuable to have that function here, and I hope we keep seeing it. So I think we've made it to, before we do board conversation, I mean, if there is any comment, if anybody who's online or here has wants to make a comment, now's the time. Kim?
Hi. My name is Kim Green Johnson. I was at the last meeting, but everybody here may not know. I attended the previous meeting as a teacher who wanted to lead students on a extended learning opportunity, I guess. Today I'm here as a teacher. I'm also vice president of the union, but in my other life as a teacher at a Windsor high school, I'm the humanities chair, a certification in social studies and English. So I swing both ways. And I thought I'm really happy to be here. Superintendent Bourne and Ms. Ryan have been kind enough to include Catherine and myself in like the number of meetings, and so we sort of know where things are going. But the budget presentation, in its very nature, needs to be somewhat anonymous. And I'm not going to talk about names, but like I do want to point out some of the, like, before you make a decision about budget and stuff like that, some of the specific impacts that budget cuts would have. In the previous meeting a month ago, the administrators were presenting some of the STAR data, I think it was, the improvement in reading skills and all that kind of stuff, right? Student improvement in classes, or student improvement in, or student academic achievement that has come about through the classes that they've taken. Right? So I thought I'd address that a little bit. The proposed budget for FY27 recommends that English teaching staff at the high school be cut from 4 positions to 2.5. The way the curriculum is laid out now is there is an English 9 requirement. English 9 is where students are introduced to different genres: novel, short stories, essay writing, drama, poetry, nonfiction. And that's kind of a requirement. Sophomore year is currently World Lit, which introduces students to literature from a variety of places. The previous years it had been Latin America and Africa and Russia and then Asia. That leaves the junior and senior year open for students to take electives. Right? With a reduction in staff from 4 to 2.5, that means that the number of those electives that juniors and seniors are taking or will be able to take will be reduced. These electives, right, and I just want you to sort of bear in mind, which of these do you think we should cut? Creative writing, poetry, mythology, film studies, literature and artistic expression, sci-fi, fantasy and horror, the literature of war, sports literature, graphic novels, or love, romance, and literature. That includes works by people like Jane Austen, Oscar Wilde, and stuff like that. The thing is that the success that the students have had in sort of recent achievement have come about because the classes that we offer are targeted to their interest and to their reading level. The way ELA works is that the more you read, the better you get at reading. The more you write, the better you get at writing. But you're not going to get struggling readers to improve their reading by giving them Dostoevsky. You need to give them things that pique their interest, and we've done a good job of developing courses like that, such as children's lit, sports lit, and mythology, sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. And similarly, you're not going to be able to improve your college-bound, high-flying students who score well on those tests that we're really happy about. If you give them books with low lexile levels. In other words, in order to continue doing the good work that we need to do, we need to provide the students with a variety of courses, and that variety will be cut, right? Just because if you go from 4 teachers to 2.5, and you already have 2 requirements that are English 9 that are full year, your World Lit is a full year, that leaves 0.5 FTE to cover the rest, and it's just not going to be able to happen. So with regards to social studies, the proposed budget recommends going from 3 teachers to 2. Similarly, we have 3 years of requirement. English has 4 years of requirements. Social studies has 3. The first year is civics. And the second year is US history, which means that the third year is open for electives. And again, this was aimed at like emphasizing student voice and choice and engagement and all that kind of stuff. Engagement as a way to improve discipline and also like trying to find students where they are, right? So what do you think we should cover? Should we cover world studies, psychology, human geography, criminology, ethnic studies, gender studies, teenagers and popular culture, contemporary problems, international issues, or economics? And the reason I mentioned these specific courses is that I think all of this really sort of plays into the school's strategic goals. I was part of, as a faculty member, I was like one of the people involved in the portrait of the graduate, the development of the posters on halls. Right? So in the strategic goals, we have things like critical thinking and empathy and communications, things that are rooted in the very classes that we teach. We begin to cut world studies, for instance. That strikes right at the global responsibility part of integrity that is written on the very poster. And teenagers are kind of snarky. I don't know if you noticed, but one of the things that they love to point out, like it's a teenage thing, like the first thing they go to is hypocrisy. When we begin to say we're going to do X and we do the opposite, that it become a little bit difficult, which is why we try and promote student voice and choice for engagement. With regards to ELA classes, they speak, I mean, there are two things that we test for, right? In a NEEP and STAR and stuff like that, it's math and it's reading, right? With regards to the strategic goals, we have communication as one of our 5 kind of portrait of a graduate. Right? I think that universally speaks for itself. But also critical thinking, right? The development of reasoning, extended, right? This is where the writing comes in. Development of presentations, public speaking, writing out things that you have to say. But also perseverance, right? It's, I have many students who would rather go to the tech center and like hammer nails, right? Than, write a 5-paragraph essay. Perseverance is like a really, really free. But even more than that, if you want to keep improving the test scores, you need to engage with students, and in order to engage with students, you need to have the courses that speak to them, or we're not going to continue to see improvements. Right? So, if I could add just like but just sort of a little bit of context. Larry put a little bit of Vermont educational history out there, and I just thought I'd put out a sort of similar brief note. I was hired in 2010 after a number of people had resigned, including the principal at the time. NCLB, No Child Left Behind, was in effect, and Windsor had been designated a failing school. There was a new principal hired, and he had the charge of like turning the school around in 3 years, or it was going to be put under administration, and 50% of the teachers were going to be fired. The next year, an even greater proportion of Vermont schools were found to be failing schools. The third year, 73%, I believe, of Vermont schools were found to be failing, and it became kind of clear that Windsor wasn't failing, NCLB was failing. NCLB was succeeded by the Every Student Succeeds Act, okay, which sort of aimed to soften and reduce some of the punitive measures of NCLB. But the Every Student Succeeds Act was then revised during COVID in order to like take advantage of the fact that the students were struggling and were difficult to solve. And we also have Act 46 that promoted the consolidation of school districts, the very thing that Vermont is struggling with now. After 3 years of sort of agitation among our towns, the big push was the creation of the Ascutney School District, but Weathersfield and Martin still stay independent. And there hasn't been a whole lot of punishment. So Act 46 may have been passed, but it has also passed. We now have Act 73, and just to wrap up, it's not, you know, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but speaking as an historian, I just want to point out that state mandated top-down, legislatively driven, educational reforms, saw the history of being transformed, being weakened, being softened, being revised, and being dropped. So I would argue, bear in mind the effects that these cuts may have. Also, the sort of, the political climate and the temperature of the state as a whole.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catherine Ford Engwall, and I am a science teacher at the high school. But I'm with the on behalf of the union as the union president for Mount Ascutney. Almost just called it Mount Ascutney School District, but it's Windsor Southeast Education Association. Kim did a great job of outlining the impacts of the social studies and English departments and humanities. As far as the math science world, we have currently 3.2 teachers teaching science here, and the proposed budget would cut it to 2.2. So an entire teacher would be gone. What the impact of that would be is we lose our BCC class, which is something that offers 4 college credits. And I know there's a lot of talk about EP classes being lacking at the school, and then it gets under my skin because we offer something better than AP courses, and I'm sure you've heard this as the board. These are 4. These are, how many classes do we have? 4 different, 5. It depends on how you count them, but we have some in the English department, in the math department, in the science department, and in the social studies department that are college classes. They do not have to pass a test and then hope that those credits transfer. They are classes that are at accredited universities, RVCC. So that's a major thing that I find really troubling, that the option would be to step in for that, and that's just not how a school should be funded. It should be funded by having the opportunities available for the students with the staffing appropriate. We have 3.5 credits required by the students, and for 2 teachers to somehow cover all of that, I find impossible. As far as the math department, we currently have 4 math teachers, and the proposed budget puts it down to 2.5. On the proposal, they are trying to hold on to honors algebra, but it's all going to come down to numbers. If there aren't enough students, or if there are, too many students that need a lower level of algebra, it's going to end up affecting something. Honors geometry, honors algebra 2. What Kim didn't point out is we have English intensive from 9th grade, and also World Lit intensive that are on the chopping block as well. As far as the science department, we have all kinds of electives that would be possibly not offered. Unsettling science, Mythbusters, forensic science, marine biology, which went to Mexico last year. So do we alternate these classes? It comes down to what the students would like, and it's going to make for a much less desirable school to go to have all of the electives offered. And so with declining enrollment, I wonder how many tuition students we will be losing with these choices. Another thing that Kim, no offense to Kim, but did not mention is ASL, right? And the ASL is not just I'm not even sure if it counts as an English credit, but it is a language credit. It's not exactly foreign, but we've already lost our French program here, which was a really painful thing. I know that we had declining enrollment in that area, but when that teacher left, we did not fill it. We tried to fill it, to be fair, but it did not get filled, and then it was not on the next budget. So that's another place that the students will lose choice. They will be forced to take Spanish, and I love Spanish, but I'm not every student, so that seems painful to me. One thing that we were celebrating, and Kim pointed this out as well, was the STAR scores, and a big part of that was Tammy Psyche specifically working so hard in small groups with students, and we already are seeing the impact of her moving positions to accommodate vacancies that have arisen in the middle of the year. And that is something we were celebrating, and it was really hard for me to sit here through the celebration knowing that it was changing. And I know many people that have had students grow through that program, and so I find that very painful to accept. I'm not entirely sure how the 8th grade algebra is going to be impacted, who is able to teach that, or if it's even able to happen. But my point is that every teacher and every student in the high school will be impacted by this. It doesn't sound as bad when you see it as, oh, 2, 3 teachers, right? But it is each department shrinking and everyone having to adjust to that shrinkage and opportunities being lost because of it. We have consulted with the state about all of this, and we've talked with Christine and Kate and Jen and Tracy and Colleen extensively. And what we are hearing from the state is you're not out of compliance until year 3. So why would we rush to make huge cuts? Why would we cut from some core classes and core areas that are the heart of the school when we don't know what the future holds? We don't know what enrollment will look like in the future. We don't know if consolidation is going to have an impact. We just don't know. I understand the budget is a concern, but I feel that there are places that we could look at cutting, and we could make smaller cuts, understanding that many of our classes are small and could see some cutbacks, but the extent to which this is being proposed seems rushed and extreme.
Thank you. Annalise, I see your hand.
Yes. Hey, the first thing I just want to say is like this is a hard subject to discuss, and it's a hard thing to do. And so I recognize the work that everybody put in to make the budget, and that I know nobody made them without thought or value to the people who hold those positions. Just because I do know many of you that are there, and I just know you guys as caring people. That being said, I really feel both as somebody who's employed within this district, but also as a former parent and a member of both the West Windsor and the Windsor community and a taxpayer, that there's almost like an effort of like being like slowing down. Just even today, this afternoon at like 5 p.m., Vermont Public released an article stating, that Phil Scott's already projecting that we're going to have a 12% tax increase this incoming year. So it's citing that has to do with educational costs that have already happened, and due to, other things, healthcare costs. But so my point being is that like we're already going to have facing an increase. He is trying to say that it's because some school districts are really putting their heels in and saying we're not going to try and do any kind of merger. There's really only been a small amount of schools that have actually started to consider shutting down or cutting people. But they're in school districts that were already having these discussions. It just seems there are so many what ifs, and there were so many people. I attended several of the task force meetings and also spoke at a couple of them, and just, heard from different corners of our state how many people were like, this doesn't work for us. So it just really puts in so much gray area. And having experienced Act 46, which felt so rushed and so pushed, and it was, using the same kind of motivation of tax incentives, or if you don't do it by this year, you're going to lose X amount of money to your budget. And we made that decision. And, in the end, are we better? Yes. But it then went away. Like COVID-19 came and it faded away. And I just feel like Act 73 still has so many what ifs. And if we don't need to be in compliance until like 3 years from now, it would be to the best interest of both ABS and Windsor, and especially to our students, to keep the people we have, because the people that we have provide those opportunities that have been highlighted in every single principal's report that was given prior, to the start of this meeting. It's giving the kids the opportunity that Amy spoke about, about the fact that they have these opportunities to be seen and have that moment to shine. And it's because we do have these smaller school communities. Albert Bridge is able to provide learning environments for kids who are in need of being outdoors to do their math, needing to do more hands-on projects than necessarily, sit at a desk. Like, both of our schools provide such wonderful things, both in the high school. I mean, the one thing I have to say that my daughter, who graduated last year, has had to work on is being in a bigger community where she doesn't have the connections that she has. She's like, I miss Windsor. I want to be back with them. Not because she's not having a great time in college, but because, she loved Kate. She loved all of her teachers. Her English teacher, who is here, she, just the relationships that she established only could happen because she was in the school she was in. And by eliminating people in such a quick way, really starts to take away the things that we are trying to build with our students, especially with things like Leader in Me. So putting in things like having funds to give these kids these opportunities is great. But when you have staff burned out because they are not able to do the things that are required to be a teacher because they are filling holes, is not going to make an environment where kids are going to feel successful and welcomed in, because the adults are going to not feel welcomed and accepted in. And so, really kind of giving a wait, let's see what happens. And the other thing I would suggest is looking into the waiver. There is a waiver option. It states stuff about how, if a school is starting to put in a plan, I would say that, because ABS and Windsor came together, there in itself is a merger. There in itself is a plan. And, maybe there's a little bit of a gray area where we might not necessarily fall into it. We also have to remember, this is not there is holes in this act that are going to probably end up disappearing or being changed. So if you build it and you sell it, you might make something come to be. So that's something also, I think, to look into. And there you go. And again, appreciate you guys.
Thank you. I see your hand up, Bill. Are there any other non-board comments? Because once we're done with those, I just want to. Yep, Kim?
I wanted to just reiterate a couple things. Catherine, what you said about the RVCC classes, I full-heartedly when we talk about flexible pathways, those college level classes, our kids have access to multiple 6 different ones here at the school summer year long. Those are included in the options that we have for flexible pathways. If we have to lose those, that's going to be impacted. And the only substitution that we have for all of those things that they mentioned, all of those electives are online classes. And we started there. Like I said, I've been here for 10 years. So many of those electives grew out of kids. I think back to my first year, we've had kids doing independent study and gender studies and mythology and all of these things. And it was after so many years of kids asking for these independent studies, we're like, wow, there's a need for this. Let's move in this direction of electives. And here we are. And now we're going to go back to them taking online classes on elective instead, and not having access to the River Valley. And they are better than AP. I don't know why there's a push for AP. It falls under the category of dual enrollment. Dual enrollment is dual enrollment, whether it's CCB, RVCC, or AP. They all provide a college transcript that you can take with you to college. Why not have them taught by people in face-to-face? They're just as good. I don't see the push for that AP. It kind of freaks me out a little bit because I'm like, please don't ever think that flexible pathways is going to be the solution to those classes going away, because it won't be. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not. It wasn't, and it's why ASL, we built that ASL class because we had so many kids coming to us asking for it as a flexible pathways. I was like, this was 5 years ago, we need to create a section of this because what am I going to do? Put them all in an online class? And that's not the type of learner nor type of class that you can really learn online. How do you do that? So I just don't know, that is going to diminish the flexible pathways. And it certainly isn't a substitute for any of the classes that we have here. The substitute would be, take an online version, and that certainly is not adequate nor a solution to being able to provide a quality education with quality class.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing about the RVCC classes?
We can keep it about a minute.
The way we're accredited is because we have a master's in our field. And so I could teach AP classes when I had a bachelor's degree, but now that I have a master's in biology, I can teach biology college classes. So that's the difference. That's why we keep saying RVCC is, dual enrollment is better than AP.
I appreciate that. And one more quick comment.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think that you said, why is there such a push for AP classes over this? And I think it's PR.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a major PR issue, which was addressed. And, we talked about it. Kate just mentioned it. We talked about it during the DXC meetings. Getting choice students and focusing on the academics of the school has never really been a push as long as I've lived here. I've never really seen that as the push. I've always seen sports as the push. So, I think that really needs to be a focus. These people don't know this. And I think it's really unfortunate hearing what everyone's saying here, knowing also that there is supposedly a goal to get choice students, right? There is a goal to elevate our academics here. So it seems kind of a shame that that's the area that we're.
All right. So appreciate everyone for speaking up there. I think we're going to move on to board discussion. So, yep. All right. So, Bill.
Oh, so excited to jump in here. A couple things I want to agree with some of the speakers is that the ability to slow down a little bit. to kind of look at this analytically and plan for the future. A couple important points here. As someone who's actually crunched the data for a school district, I have calculated classroom size for Hartford. That's part of my job. Larger high school, yada, yada. One important thing to remember that's brought up is there is no credit requirement. Okay. There is no credit requirement for graduation in the state of Vermont. There is no credit requirement for graduation at Windsor High School. Okay. So that's one of the pantomime shifts that's going to contribute to the survival of Windsor High School. Okay. You don't have to have topics and courses to teach students skills. Okay. The other thing that was very difficult in calculating Hartford's classroom size is the fact that in some of the classrooms, one, they have 70-minute blocks. Teachers are teaching 3 courses in one block. Okay. And they're doing it mostly in the arts, but there are 3 courses that exist in that room with that single teacher. Another example is that most of the classes have advanced areas within the same classroom. So that teacher has an advanced group and a regular Algebra 2 group. Use Algebra 2 as a group. They have advanced Algebra 2 and Algebra 2 in the same room. And so I think in long-term planning is meeting students where they are by disconnecting from the thought that you have to have a course content and that you have to have credits. That's not the case. Students, and there are classroom structures that are exempt from the class size. There's intervention, there's independent studies, there's dual enrollment. All these things exist. And so for an example at Hartford, and I'm not using Hartford as an example, but it's just something because I crunched the data. At Hartford, for example, they have courses that are college that are taught by teachers there within a single classroom, and there's multiple courses going on in that classroom at a time over 70 minutes. And so you might have 2 courses that are similar, but it's a 70-minute block. So the teacher has time to focus on these students and then time to focus on these students. Okay. So it's that disconnecting from thinking that your content area is really what's important when your content area actually isn't important. It is the skills. It is that are what decides what if a student reaches the graduation requirements within the state of Vermont. So it's that shifting the idea so that we can change the structure of a high school so it delivers what students need. Now, what makes an education successful? There are 2 things. There is relationships and there is student engagement. Okay. And for relationships and student engagement, you need people. You have to have relationships. You have to engage students. You have to know how to do it. And so
No, we lost your audio there.
Oh, well, I pressed my.
There you go.
I suggest that there are more creative ways to reach these requirements than just cutting a bunch of several positions. It's changing how education is structured within the high school. Okay. It's just, I think it should be explored. And I think it should be explored over time.
All right, Elizabeth?
Thanks, Davis. I just want to say for the record, I am not a fan of AP classes. I think they're a scam. Let me be clear about that. AP classes are a scam to get money, and they don't have any meaning, especially in a rural state. I just want to be clear about that. And I have a cat meowing. I apologize. I also want to be clear in my distaste for advanced compliance. I think advanced compliance is what we are being asked to do all over the place right now, without true meaning behind the compliance, and without exploring ways to, as Bill says, exploring ways to navigate what's being actually asked underneath. And I ask whether you have a budget that is prepared without these cuts that we can see, because we haven't looked at that. And I want to know, Bill, whether you know whether the graduation requirements that are being developed by the Agency of Education will change what you're talking about. And what I want to weigh in with is, I agree that we should not be taking up these cuts right away simply to be advanced compliers. Thank you.
All right, Bill, if you want to very quickly answer that question, and then Amy, if you have an answer.
My understanding of the graduation requirements is that there's still graduation requirements. How the student reaches the graduation requirements depends on how well schools are able to apply summative assessments and measures where the student's at. It doesn't really change the end result. They don't need credits. They don't need seat time. They need to reach the standard. Okay, some students can do that in a more independent way with support. Again, it's that engagement in relationships. Some students need more help to reach those. Thus, you have intervention type classes, which are exempt. Okay, and so you can game the system in that by following the requirements and allow the engagement and the relationships to continue. And you just have to document that students have met the graduation standards.
Thank you.
All right, Amy?
I am in agreement with Elizabeth and Bill that advanced compliance, I don't think will be our friend in this situation. I think we need to wait and see what is happening and do what's best for our students right now. And just my experience with advanced compliance, I think that overall, Act 46 helped us. I'm looking at it from a Windsor point of view, but I believe that it did. But everything that we had been told by the state about absolute compliance by everyone did not come through. There were districts that the state said, okay, you're fine. And I think we need to be one of those districts that just kind of takes a break and sees what happens with as the the conversations with the legislature and the state board and AOE, et cetera, go continue to work. And I also saw Elizabeth and Liz Frederick's reply to our governor that what needs to be looked at more than education are one of the major costs that's driving education, and that is healthcare costs. And what is happening right now, the governor needs to be looking at that and not at education. So thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Elizabeth, I see your hand. Before I call on you again, Nancy or Megan, do you have anything you want to add, or are you cool?
It's okay. I'm very happy to hear all these voices, and they speak for me.
All right. Elizabeth.
Thanks. I just also wanted to explain a couple of parts about the December 1st letter, which it's December 1st, the letter comes out, and every year it is a very rough projection. We don't know. It's based on a few different things, but those different things don't necessarily have much to do with the income that the state is going to receive. It's based on the projections of some districts who have already submitted their budgets, but it's a very low number because not many districts have already approved their budgets. This year, I heard on the commission meeting this afternoon that a representative from the tax commissioner took the time to explain the roughly 12%. About 7% of that is a result of last year's buy down, which was excess money that was received from, I think, the room tax, room and use tax, which we used to buy down last year's taxes. So we have to make up for it this year, and 7% of the 12% increase comes from that projection. And then the rest of it was something like, it was made up between inflation and healthcare costs. So the December 1st letter, 12% increase, is really hard to use as a hard and fast number or even a true projection. And so what we are looking at right now is our budget, and we're not looking at the 12% increase per se, because we can't base our decisions on that. Thanks.
Elizabeth, one quick question for you. Was there not a conversation at the state of doing away with the December 1st letter for the reasons that you're talking about? I mean, this is a perennial problem.
Yeah, there was at one point during the yield bill discussion last year, they were going to move the December 1st letter back to July to make it possible for the budgeting season to be better aligned with everything else. And that fell by the wayside.
Okay. Thanks, Elizabeth. All right. Any other comments from the board?
I guess I obviously do not want to have to cut teachers or anything, but my concern is, like, I know it, 12%, you're saying it's arbitrary, we don't understand, but is there going to have to be cuts no matter what we do? Like, if we decide we're not going to do this, like, would there still be cuts?
It would depend what the voters said. That would be a role of the.
Well, yeah, and I think in hearing the teachers, and I appreciate, what they're sharing. We've been in close collaboration, and they know that I feel like I'm responsible for doing what I'm supposed to do. not necessarily agree with all of it, but I feel like it's my job. And luckily the board gets to make the final decision on this, but I think in being in the school, and I don't think anybody will argue this, we have classes that are too small in the high school. We have classes where we've closed them down, some of those electives, because there are 2 kids that want to take it. So I think we have to be responsible and reasonable about it. And I know Catherine can agree with that. We've talked about it. So I think taking a hard look, if the board's directive is, we don't want to cut this deep, we'll go back to the table and we'll look at where it makes sense. And,
I think I also think it would be easier. It's easier to do things as a team when you're doing something like this to do in isolation. And we can have our friends, right? Like, and we have nothing but respect for each other. But I wanted to, they would say something, I'd be like, oh my God, but like social use department actually isn't being cut. Right? It's 2.5 this year, it'll be 2.5 next year. Like there are no cuts. Right. So now that they kind of like, I think Larry said, the cat's out of the bag and we can have an open dialogue. I think that would be really helpful. If you're asking my opinion as Kate Ryan, not as the president of the school, do I think a budget without any cuts will pass with our voters? The answer is no. Yeah. But
yeah,
I think that we could have a further conversation now that we all have information, are able to have an open dialogue.
I think, with the December 1st letter coming out today, and we don't have everything solidified, and we won't, but, and we're looking into it, but our LTWADM has dropped, which has an impact on our budget.
And we're looking into the LTWADM because that's the only thing that not that we can control it, but it's the only lever. And usually there are mistakes, and you find out later that the LTWADM came up. But even if the LTWADM was flat,
Can you tell me what that is?
sorry, the long-term weighted average daily membership.
Okay.
It's Act 127. Put it into place. It used to be called equalized pupil. Basically, there is no way, from what I can see, the numbers that I'm running and what's going to be in the budget book when it's printed, that's going to be a 12% estimate. It's going to be significantly higher.
The other, and again,
Without that's with the cuts.
now that we can have
With the cuts.
open conversations when we talk about, there's got to be a middle ground, because I'm talking off the top of my head, but I believe right now with a freshman class of 50, we run 5 sections of English 9, and you can do the math on what those class sizes look like. And then with the class size minimums, we wouldn't run 5 sections of English 9. We run 3. So that would open up room to still teach electives. I mean, I feel like that was pretty honest in the beginning. I'm worried about the science department, and however, science department, they have no wiggle room with what was proposed. I honestly said to my staff today, like I need this budget to comply with the law and to be financially responsible for people when doing lessons there, because in my job, a lot of what I hear and feedback is people are struggling. And how can we help? How can we be responsible to a community that supports us more than any other community I've ever seen? So I do feel, none of this has felt good, but I do feel better that we are able to have open dialogues about it anymore now, and it's not so isolating.
Because we do come together with great ideas as a team.
So I think, I think we should come back to you next month with different versions of the budget. Larry should have more information on.
I'm going to need some direction.
Well, you'll have more solid and hopefully information on the LPWAD.
Yeah, that's the tax. It has nothing to do with budget.
Right. So, I heard Elizabeth say, what's the budget without any cuts? What's the budget?
I can give that.
Cuts? What's the budget? We have to look at it.
If people want to see that to debt tonight, I can. It's one sheet. I can.
Yeah.
It's not going to be in the budget book or anything, but to give you an example of what we're looking at. This is the last year's budget. This is complying with the law. This is the budget that's in the budget book right now. This is not complying with the law. The increase as is, meaning the budget book increase is 6.3 as I went through the whole budget book. If you put the rest back in, it'd be a 9.3% increase. So just to give you an idea of where we are.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with looking at this solely from a financial standpoint. Okay. There has to be a discussion on taking the opportunity to change how instruction is delivered to these students. Not just how X, Y, and Z we need to cut these teachers to reach these budget numbers. How are we going to reach? How are we going to deliver how instruction is done in a way that, one, is responsible, and two, maximizes what student needs?
Well, very quick.
Well, just, hi Bill, I don't know, it's Kim. Again, I don't know if you can see me, but I think one of the questions that we should also be asking, to sort of build on your thing, is not like, what should we be teaching? Right? I think a sort of global approach, like not just how to deliver, but like what to deliver.
Thank you. Yeah.
What I think I heard from Kate in that some of these conversations now can happen to answer sort of the questions that Bill said. It sounds like that's what you all want to come together to do.
Yep.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone showing up to provide perspective on this. I have not been looking forward. I don't think anybody's been looking forward to or enjoying this process. I mean, I couldn't agree more that Act 73 is rushed in every single one of the things that it has done or is attempted to do. And it is really, I find it challenging, having been on the board as long as I have, to have seen us work towards filling positions, work towards being able to provide opportunities, work towards being able to do all these things, and then have what feels, I mean, at least with consolidation, which isn't quite what we're talking about, but like consolidation within the space of less than a year was sold as a cost-saving measure and then acknowledged to not be a cost-saving measure. Obviously, yeah, staff is a large part of the local budget. There's no way around that. That being said, on a state level, I think we also understand that healthcare and special education costs are what is driving this massive increase in budgets. We know that's a reality. And it is intensely frustrating to see, in this instance, when that is such a known quantity, the state kind of leaning again on like, well, we have to create X class size minimum, just like quantify something that is fundamentally qualitative in so many ways. I endorse the idea right now because we are having this open conversation and there may be some opportunities to look at other ways of conceiving how to structure this budget. If we have another month to take, I think we should take another month. And what I would say as far as, and Larry, I appreciate you giving that breakdown, just kind of the high level cost of it. As a starting point, I mean, we obviously, I think looking at a budget that has the full budget that's non-compliant versus fully compliant with the cuts in mind. And then, I mean, I suppose in that interim, working together, I don't know if we want to do more budget advisory committee. I guess that's where I look like, what is possible?
I think
in the span of a month with the holidays. I mean, it's less than ideal.
And day-to-day school.
Yes, with everything in life.
And our actual jobs.
Yes, yes.
I think it would be helpful to sit down, administration to sit down with you again. And come back to the board. If you, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of our greatest ideas come out because we have different perspectives and ability to see things. I think that is, I mean, union job is to protect the jobs that are here, right? And so that's a hard position to put them in.
And we all appreciate thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
We're all together.
So, yeah, I would love to be able to sit down. I did learn a lot. This was the hardest budget season we've had, right? So I did learn a lot. I learned a lot from, the public perspective, from Liz. Like when you're in the weeds, right, and you're doing this day in and day out, and your money isn't. There's specific kids in mind that you're thinking of when, like, how am I going to save this one? How am I going to save this one? You're not really concerned with what the outside world is thinking about you, and it bothers me that when there's reputation or whatever isn't as great as it should be, because it is a great place to be.
And I'll throw in there, and I don't think I say this enough, but my memories of being a student at Windsor and around sort of 2003 to and then being somebody who worked adjacent to Windsor and had colleagues who worked in Windsor roughly around 2010, 11, I think seeing from those different perspectives now my current role, the kind of sea change that especially our secondary programs have undergone, it's just night and day. It's really not, it's incomparable, like my experience was in middle school, like 20 years ago, and knowing people in high school versus what is offered now, what the culture is now, just like everything about it has come so far. And I think that when we're making these kind of decisions, we really need to do what we can to make sure that kind of growth continues to happen. I think that my last question for you, Christine. So I understand, I appreciate you clarifying all those questions about what compliance looks like, because my biggest frustration in the last meeting is that, like,
We're confused.
it was very confusing, right? It seems a lot clearer now, I guess. I think it's important when we're looking at this to understand the stakes of it. So it's compliance over a period of 3 years is how they measure compliance.
3 consecutive years.
3 consecutive years, correct.
So it's my understanding that when they collect the data next year, if you're a school that is not in compliance with the law, you will have to present a plan to get into compliance with the law. So they're not going to come close our school next year.
Right.
The guidance that superintendents were given is, this is the law. It's your job to comply with it. The boards make the final decision. So I feel like, I can go to sleep at night doing my job. Do I want to cut all these staffers? No, I care deeply for them and for the kids, but I think we can come to a place where we can figure it out. So,
and I appreciate your position. I appreciate everybody's position coming to us again. It's not, like I said, something I've been looking forward to in the decision making capacity at all. But I think getting an idea of what that process looks like, what the state might be expecting. I mean, should we move in a direction where we are getting creative with this? It's just good to keep our eyes on that as well.
Yeah. I think if we're not in compliance, we're going to have to create a plan to get in compliance. That's what I've been told. What that plan looks like, I think we devise it.
Okay.
We know we're over the minimum here or under the minimum here. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to propose for the following year. So I think it slows down the process, but it doesn't
also
mitigate the process.
Bringing up a point, it's the budget that's in compliance is under the excess spending threshold. The budget but barely. So if you put those risks back in, then or approve a budget with the risk, then without the risk, then you would you'd be over the excess spending threshold. So just
Can you remind us what that means?
That means every dollar over the threshold per child, per LTWADM, it's you send an extra $1 to Montpelier.
Okay.
So it goes right into the ed fund. So
What
it's
is the threshold?
It's, I just had it up.
15.8.
It is currently, it is, 16,470. And if you went, I'd have to find that other number. So right now you are under the threshold. But if you,
Proposed budget.
with your proposed budget. So
But you're very close, so.
basically it's a kicker to the tax rate. So for every dollar.
Yep.
Over.
No, and
And Harley's been over for years, and Weathersfield's now well over
yep.
For next
Yep.
year.
for next year.
Yep, and I really appreciate you bringing that up because that's, just one of the many variables that we really got to take into account as we work on this. So I don't think there's too much more to say at this point. I think that, I appreciate you all coming here. I'll say that again. I think just taking a month to look at, and the few that I would throw out that are just off the top of my head now, and I'm sure that you will come up with far more nuanced and intelligent things than this, but just briefly hear me out. I would say what is the least amount of staffing impact that gets us under the threshold is something to consider. And then what are other opportunities that don't impact staffing right now or minimize staff impact that can reduce cost within our controllable cost, which I know is very challenging. And beyond that, I think there's, I don't think you guys need too much more direction than that. You all know what you're doing. Yes, thank you so much for staying late and taking time to talk about that. Incredibly valuable.
I'm on you to approve just.
Yeah, we do. Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm recalibrating here. We put that last because that's going to feel easy. All right. Thanks again. Thank you. 6B. So yeah, table. We'll bring it back next time. And
The MOU?
not the MOU. I'm sorry, that was a
Letter
confusing
C.
way of saying that. But just we'll bring it back next time. Thank you. MOU. So this, as I understand it, having looked at it and having had this discussion in the past, this memorandum of understanding between our district and the town of West Windsor functionally just codifies what has been happening. Is there a way just to throw it on the board quickly? Just I think the background.
I can share.
Yeah, that you can just share up there. Just want to make sure folks get their eyes on it. But it's very straightforward. It is nothing we haven't talked about already, and it's just putting on paper what the school and the town have been happily doing as long as this district has existed. I appreciate the background part because it added to my understanding that prior to that, the town and the school were much more closely related as they were in Windsor, and it just didn't need to be this kind of paper. But now it does.
Yes, and as we've expanded, particularly our grounds with our place-based stuff, it's become pretty clear we need to be clear about who's doing what. So all we've basically done is in this, it said who has traditionally done what, and we're going to keep traditionally doing that thing. So a couple of areas like the town of West Windsor does things like the plowing. We get approval for things like where to put buildings and things like that. We put new structures on as we have like waterways and things like that. And then they're willing to collaborate with us on big ideas around things that might need to change. And at the school district, they do take care of the grounds, the snow on like the walk paths, that kind of stuff. They're gonna help take care of the field. And some things are sort of out of the traditional approach that we use in the different schools. So like we have extensive flower beds and we have these outdoor classrooms. And so we're trying to find ways to make it so it's not a school expectation that the school budget pays for it. It's not being paid by the other schools, nor is it something maybe the town pays for, but some way we can some kind of creative collaboration to address these. In the past, we've tried to have sort of volunteers, and for a lot of it, it works, but it's not consistent. So it's on our agenda to problem solve, but we're working together to problem solve. So that's basically what this whole thing does. And the goal would be if you guys approve it, then it goes back to the select board at West Windsor, and then they would give a final approval.
Excellent. And, you know, to your point, just to reiterate, this is things that have already been happening. I know you've been working on finding volunteers since long before we were talking about this MOU. So all it does is make sure that everybody's on the same page. There's a trail to it. So, all right, I will take a motion to, do you mind just scrolling up the top for me for a moment? Just want to get the name of it as it's written.
Thank you. And Matt Frederick knows this.
Okay, yeah, before I make the motion, Matt, if you want to throw in your 2 cents about that too.
Hey, Davis. For the record, this is Matt Frederick. I'm the town administrator in West Windsor, as well as a parent of children in this district. As Jennifer said, this MOU just codifies what already is happening. I just wanted to point out that the select board hasn't actually reviewed this yet. So you guys don't necessarily need to make a motion to approve it if you want them to review it first. This was just written to make sure that you guys are on board with what Jennifer and I had proposed, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. If you guys are totally fine with it, I'm not opposed to you guys approving it now, but if you want them to consider it first, that's totally understandable.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Matt. I think
I'd like to see it to read it quietly.
sure. Yeah, I think if folks want another chance to read this, and also like just in the off chance that the West Windsor Select Board has any updates that they want to make to it for us to consider, I know that it's not policy, but the way we do policy is we do 3 reads, and I think that giving this at least a little time to think about and see if the other parties involved have any edits they want to make. Like I don't see any. I don't know if anybody on the board sees any changes. I mean, we've got a month to think about it.
The only thing that they may want to adjust, and this is something that I considered carefully, was the liability section.
Sure.
Our select board chair is a lawyer, so I expect that he will make sure that that is good. But if you guys want to make sure, you know, I just want to make sure that when this is done, it's done, and we don't have to review it again until something changes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm I think taking a little bit more time to make sure it's done right makes a lot of sense.
Awesome.
So thanks for that perspective. So motion didn't get out of my mouth. I didn't motion anything. I didn't ask for one. I started to, and Matt gave me some good perspective there. So I don't think we need to make a motion. I think this also we can table until next meeting and come back to it. Oh, we'll get there. We still got to set the next agenda. All right, we've made it to setting the next agenda. The 2 things that I know that we are going to want to have there, apart from the 2 things that we've tabled from tonight. So that is budget, MOU. We're also, I would like to talk about library services at Windsor. That's something that's come up a couple times. And I think, you know, we just want to kind of hear a rundown of what that looks like across Mount Ascutney School District. And I think that's specifically in the way that it came up, just to kind of bring everyone back to that, was in reference to some of the EQS requirements, right? About library services. I think that's where that question originated.
Required to have under EQS a library if we have over 300 students, a lot full-time library.
Got it.
Which we do. I think it's more directed at, we have an elementary program, and the high school library program has changed over the past decade. So, so we're in compliance at the elementary level. Well, I think we're in compliance. We have 1 librarian for a school of over 300 kids.
So then maybe thinking about the fact that we're probably gonna have a lot of talk about the budget too, and this is more of a informational topic and less of a pressing thing. I might propose that we actually put that in February.
Yeah.
And then if we can do, I think one that might be worth hearing about as we go into the spring, if we can talk about accessibility updates. I feel like that's, Jim comes in and speaks to it quickly. I don't think that's going to take a ton of time.
What month would you like that?
If we have time, if we think we can put that in next month, I think that would be.
So the other things for next month to consider, we need to adopt the budget next month.
Yes.
We need to talk about the February budget information meeting, logistics, dates, time. We have to talk about the election subcommittee. We have to appoint numbers for public high school choice by February 1st, I believe. We also have to approve the tuition rate technically by January.
Yeah.
So those are all things that are also kind of, we have to talk about it. So,
And that's by later in January or by
by early January.
Early January.
early January? Okay.
I get the exact date.
Cool. So let's put the accessibility one February too.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
I think that, yeah, I appreciate the, yeah. Okay. Anything else for the next agenda or next agendas to consider? All right. Well, Nancy, we've made it there.
So moved.
All right, I will take a motion to adjourn this meeting. Second. And I will do a simple voice vote. All those in favor of adjourning, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you so much.
Thank
All right. We are adjourning at 9:30 p.m. Thanks everyone for sticking it out.
Fine.
I didn't think we were